and to tell your kids about, because this is as big as 1776, ladies and gentlemen, as initiating July 4th. We haven't won the whole war yet, but I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, things have been put in motion historically that cannot be controverted, and the power of the Renaissance will not be stopped. Paul Watson's coming up. Roger Stone's coming up on Donald Trump's statements on this issue, and so much. Big broadcast. Stay with us.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight on this 24th of June, 2016. Mark it down. This is going to be a day like July 4th. Remember, that was not when we won the Revolutionary War. That was not when we won our independence. That was when we declared our independence, declared the right of self-government, declared that we have inalienable rights, that we create these governments to secure, that a just government governs to fulfill these rights. And when they are destructive of those rights, it's the right of the people to alter or abolish it and institute new forms of government. And that's what we're seeing happening now, the very beginning of that, happening in Britain. I never thought it would happen. I never thought it would happen. I thought it was going to be rigged. And of course, Paul Joseph Watson did as well. I know I was watching his tweets and the things he was putting up in articles. I was tweeting the same stuff. It's like, okay, they're ahead right now. And say, no, now they've got Remain ahead. They're going to rig this election. It must have been a massive landslide for them to win it by 4 points. Okay, that was a solid win. That was a solid win. They had 70-some-odd% of the people turn out to vote, and Watson is going to be here and give us some more details on that. But put that in perspective. We only have about 50% of the people vote in American elections. So that was a huge, huge turnout. Now, as the headlines look, one article that's really good. This was the day the British people defied their jailers. That's a Telegraph headline. Another one, Brexit, the world's most complex divorce begins. And we're going to talk about all this stuff. But as I was looking at this, as I was celebrating this pushback against globalism, all I could think about was, the British are leaving. The British are leaving.
That means I'm single again. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, baby. It's Brexit. This is great. It was so much fun watching this. So yeah, looking at this parade. That is the opening of Austin Powers, if you recognize that music. And that's what we all felt like last night, watching Britain take back its freedom, take back its culture. Look, this is real multiculturalism, a free Europe, where people pursue their own destiny, where they write their own laws, where they have their own culture, and it's not dictated and dumbed down to them. And when I just did the backflip into the Jaguar XKE that's covered with a Union Jack, I couldn't do that, but I had to get in the car and go for a ride with my wife last night, like 1 o'clock. It was just too exciting. Okay. So we're going to have, in the next segment, we're going to have Roger Stone with us, because we do have a victory to celebrate here in America coming up with the convention in Cleveland. And he's also going to talk about what this portends for the presidential election. Everybody is saying this, left and right. Some of them are wringing their hands. Some of them are celebrating like we are. We're also going to have Steve Pieczenik joining us, telling people, don't fear. They're trying to turn up the fear. Because, this is not going to be an immediate process. This is going to be a long, drawn-out process. The Germans say, we want you out now. Get out, go now. But it's going to be a couple-year process. And, of course, we've had David Cameron already resign. But he resigned and said that it's going to be a leadership change in October when the Tory party meets. And the Germans are saying, don't wait that long. Get out now. So we'll see what happens. But once that article is triggered, it's going to take a couple of years possibly for this to work its way out. And in the meantime, you're going to see what we're seeing today. You're going to see manipulations of the marketplace. I don't think Britain shot itself in the FTSE, their stock index. That's I think that this is a manipulation. I think it's going to work itself out. And we're going to talk about why, even if the currency goes down, that can be a very good thing. Now, before we go to the next article here and talk about this, I just want to tell you about a new special we've got at Infowars.com, because that's how we maintain our independence as a media organization. We don't want to be dependent on other corporations who are going to come in here and try to manipulate us by giving us a lot of ads, making us dependent upon them, and then pulling it out at the last minute, pulling the rug out from under our media operation. So Alex Jones has wisely come up with a plan to fund our own media operation and to provide top quality health products, as well as other things like water filters. We still have the 20% off Alexa Pure water filters at InfoWarsStore.com. That's all of them, from the largest down to the smallest. And we got a new sale today, Deep Cleanse. This is our fastest seller. It is now in stock, 20% off at InfoWars.com. This is the Rolls-Royce of all-in-one cleansers. And that's the important thing to understand. It is a all-in-one cleanser. Instead of buying 5, 6, or 7 different cleansing products, we use decades of scientific research to put this together. It combines the power of concentrated zeolites, organic cilantro, organic milk thistle, and many other cleansing ingredients. Right now, 20% off, a new sale, Deep Cleanse at InfoWarsLife.com. That's what keeps us independent. That's what funds our organization. Stay with us. We're going to be right back with Roger Stone. He's going to break this down and tell us about a new victory here in America. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight on this momentous day. It is Independence Day for Britain, as Boris Johnson said. I was looking at the Telegraph's Tim Stanley. His headline is, "This is the day the British people defied their jailers." He said, the people defied the experts, and they went with their conscience. He said, Labor voters, most of all the Northeast, rebelled against a century of Labor leadership. He says, I'm astonished, staggered, humbled. I should never have lost faith in my countrymen, those bold, brave, beautiful British voters. Good for you. You're leading the way in freedom. And you know, it was Winston Churchill who said in the history of the English-speaking people, now we've written a new chapter, by the way. This is going to be a new chapter. This is going to continue in America. We're going to talk to Roger Stone about that, but this is a new chapter. And he said, when America got its independence from Britain, it was a liberating thing for Britain as well. It unleashed freedom in Britain. It gave power to the people, to the parliament in Britain. And we're going to see this happening as the EU unravels. And you're going to see true multiculturalism. You're going to see the energy and the culture of the European people, which has been repressed and dumbed down, turned into this kind of politically correct gray mass, a lobotomized population who has been indoctrinated and controlled by a central government. You're going to see that explode, and creativity and diversity, true creativity, true diversity. So let's go to Roger Stone. Of course, Roger Stone has worked for many pro-American political parties in Eastern Europe. And I want to talk to him about that, but we're going to talk about a victory, first of all, that has just happened in regards to our presidential election here. Welcome, Roger.
David, great to be with you.
Did you see this coming? I got to ask you, did you really see this coming? Because I didn't. I thought the people were with it, but I thought they were going to rig the election. It must have been a total landslide for them to be able to win by 4%. I guess they figured they just couldn't swamp the votes that were coming in from the countryside by rigging it and the places that they control.
Yeah, globalism has taken 2 enormous hits this year. First, the rise of Donald J. Trump, and now the Brexit vote.
Yes.
Globalism is done, and the globalists are increasingly panicky about the prospects for the road ahead. I think this portends very good things about the American election, and I am very pleased with the developments in the Trump campaign. I believe they can now strategically get back on track, get back on offense, because when you're not on offense, you're losing votes.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, when I looked at this, Roger, we saw this division in the UK over Brexit. You had the Labour leadership really versus the Labour voters. The Labour voters had really gotten the shaft with globalism. And yet the Labour leaders, the Labour Union leaders, as well as the Labour Party leaders, were supporting staying in this globalism that had cost their voters their jobs. And then we saw the Tory leadership divided as well. Here in America, we've got the Democrat leadership, like Hillary Clinton, who was pushing, say, keep this together, and yet it's their voters, their blue-collar voters, who are being hurt by this, just like we saw in England. And then we've got the GOP establishment, and the only person on the other side of that is Donald Trump, but it's big enough that he can stand there with the blue-collar voters, I think, and with the Republican voters who understand what's going on, the people that Bilderberg was so concerned about, they called the precariat. I think they should be very concerned about that precariat. I think they should be very concerned about this, the people understanding how globalism has really screwed them over.
Yeah, I think it's a very analogous situation. I mean, ironically, it is the Democratic Party and the Clintons who brought us NAFTA. Remember what it was that Ross Perot said about NAFTA? He said that sucking sound you hear of the jobs leaving America.
Yeah.
Of course, he turned out to be exactly right. Once again, the leadership of the Democratic Party and some in the union movement supporting NAFTA, now I think a great recognition, particularly among the Bernie Sanders voters, that these large globalist trade deals, whether it's NAFTA or TPP, TPA, they're leaving the American economy behind. So it is a precursor. I really believe at the end of the day, Trump will be able to get almost a third of the Sanders voters, not his hard left voters, but those labor-oriented voters who both oppose the Iraq War and oppose these globalist trade deals.
And who also oppose the establishment essentially controlling them, the corrupt establishment, because that was also a big part of it as well. People didn't like what was happening in Brussels, and people don't like what the establishment of both parties are doing to them. And that's a reaction that we see with the Sanders voters as well as with the Trump voters. So I agree with you. I think he's got a very strong case to make to both of them. Tell us what's going on in Cleveland now. I understand you got some new developments there.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday was kind of like the Daily Double. We won two important victories. Not only was I pleased about the vote in the UK, but the city of Cleveland had handed down a set of very restrictive gag orders on Trump demonstrators and Trump supporters for the days surrounding the convention. Many months ago, working with Citizens for Trump and others, we applied for a permit to have a specific march and rally outside the facility, the convention facility. The city delayed and delayed and delayed. They ultimately denied our permit. They gave one to Black Lives Matter, but they denied ours. And ultimately, they cooked up rules that would have required all protesters to be essentially in the same penned-in area. So in other words, Black Lives Matter, MoveOn.org thugs cheek by jowl with Liberty Republicans, Trump supporters, bikers for Trump, and so on. This was an obvious recipe for fisticuffs, for violence. Perhaps this is what the city Democratic machine in Cleveland actually wanted. They would not give us a specific location for a rally. They would not allow us to have our own public address system. They would only allow us to have access to a system set up in a certain area controlled by the city in which you have to apply to speak, and 20 people have already been approved. You can imagine they are the Vegetarian Party, the New Agers, I mean, every kook group you can think of. So with the ACLU supporting us, we went to federal court. I'm always skeptical about the judicial system because I believe judges are essentially politicians who climb to the top of the heap.
Right.
But in any event, yesterday a federal judge threw out the city's rules, specifically directed the city to reduce the security perimeter for the convention from 4 miles away to 1 mile away, which is far more reasonable.
Wow.
That, in turn, I think opens a number of city-owned sites potentially for what was originally the Stop the Steal rally, featuring Alex Jones and Ann Coulter and other speakers, and is now hopefully will be the American Unity rally, and hopefully a triumphant moment for Trump supporters.
Are you still going to be confined into some kind of a cage? Because this is something that we've seen getting worse every round of presidential elections. Removing people who want to speak or to protest or whatever, removing them farther and farther away, putting them in cages, restricting their ability to speak. We've seen this as an ongoing trend, and every 4 years it gets worse. But now that they have shrunk the security perimeter from 4 miles to 1 mile, are they still going to be putting you in cages and restricting who can speak and that sort of thing?
No, I don't think so. I think the judge made it very clear that none of that was acceptable. So,
Great.
Negotiations to settle. The city would like to settle the suit. We would like a city designated